timing.
Well,
Literally right as the recording started. Alright, you want to give the intro today?
no, you go for it, man. It's been a hot minute since we've hopped on the cast and let you take the reins for this one.
Alright. Look. Alright. Welcome,
You're like, oh, shit.
Welcome, everyone, to Smokepit Symposium. We have been gone for quite some time, unfortunately.
Was it about a month and a half?
Something like that. Don't actually. Well, 2 months, 2.5 months. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's actually about 2.5 months. Life's been pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things have been going on personally.
Yeah, who knew that if you didn't get paid for a podcast, you would have to live a normal life?
I know, right?
Yeah.
As always, I'm Hess, and we have with me, as always,
I am Rice. Just keep it short and simple. I myself and Hess have been working together, off and on, contracting wise, and staying very well connected over the past, I'd say, close to 4 years, 5 years going on soon.
yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. And I guess today's title, or so I would say, for this episode, this podcast, is Gunfighters. And it is a title that myself and Hess have not chosen because we're trying to make it sound cool, but because of its relevance in one of the topics we'd like to talk about today.
Yeah. So, if you're listening and you're aware of anything that's been going on in the world, obviously there's been a shit ton of things happening. A lot in America, which is where most of you probably are aware of, but elsewhere as well, and we'll cover some of it.
At least keep anyone who's listening up to date. Let them know that, hey, even though there's chaos going on our side of the world, it's also nice to know that just in case you decide to jump the border or go somewhere else for maybe a vacation or escape it all, this is what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Which I am going to start working on, actually doing a weekly update videos on that stuff. Having like a weekly intel dump, so to speak.
Yeah, might as well. Kind of like a much better version of InfoWars, where it's just a weekly update of like, hey, world's fucked up and this is how.
Yeah. But
So I guess to kick it off, one thing I definitely wanted to go ahead and talk about is what you brought up, the message you brought up about the current standards and mentality of law enforcement personnel. And also, I would like to bring that in with even contracting, guys who go overseas and do security jobs in the mindset and the current training of even security jobs here back in the States and how lackluster it really is.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I'll start off on my end with my current security standards and the mindset, and then I'll dish it over to you. But basically, for those who are listening, the reason why we're calling this Gunfighters is because the term gunfighter, I guess, in my own opinion, is not some old school cowboy or somebody who can do trick shots or is just this Hollywood badass, but it is actually somebody who is a professional of their craft. Somebody who has learned skills of marksmanship and precision, and not only has he maintained those skills and fundamentals of his craft, but he has employed them is currently employing them and improving on them, to which I personally would call a gunfighter, somebody who pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
So, in essence, gunfighters, as much as myself and even US and those who are in our job field would probably disagree and say there's a lot of us, that's mostly because of our environment and our network we have. Like-minded individuals try to stay together, and those of us who are constantly training and constantly going overseas retain those skills. But there are a lot of guys who are your one-hit wonders, or people who will probably one of my favorite things to listen to at my job is when guys will brag about how great they did at the range, like how they performed some sort of shot without implementing any real skill, or something they did years and years ago and they cling to that one act or one feat of marksmanship that they had.
Oh, I'm offended.
Okay, you're one of those guys that's like, yeah, hey, this one time a few years ago I nailed this shot at 500 meters. I hit a nickel.
To some extent, yes.
Okay,
But
so I'll try and reword this without getting kicked off my own cast.
well, in all fairness, I openly admit I'm not one of those cool SF guys that got to do all the fun shit.
And neither am I. I am nowhere near, nor am I pretending to be some sort of like SF, super man of gunfighting or any of that by nature. It's just the individuals that I have had the honor and privilege of working with. It has been a very humbling experience to train and work alongside these guys, and not only alongside them, but actually keep up with them and actually take the lead on multiple occasions to kind of let me be more comfortable in those environments with these guys. But when I come back home and I'm in these security jobs, working a regular day job or anything like that, the second that somebody hears that you went out and you did some sort of training, which it's all supposed to be hush hush, but people talk no matter what. You tell one person, they tell 50, and it gets back around to you. So
yeah, yeah.
But it always it blows my mind when I go back to work at my day job and I find that there are many individuals who have this mentality of just they have to one up you, or they feel like they have to. But then when they are at work in a day-to-day life, how they handle their firearms, what they do with their firearms, what they just general mindset is not what I would call a professional gunfighter, even though they pretend to be.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of civilians that need more training in the field.
It's hard to get the training though.
Because
because the training that is necessary, I would say, to at least give some sort of a structure or a even level, get everybody up to a certain ground, to a certain standard. That level of training is, known to be rigorous. And it's not appealing to a lot of people because one of the golden rules of gunfighting is you have to be fit. You have to be in shape. And if you're not in shape, you die. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
And most of the training that you and I want to employ, we both know that the most training you get is from stress tests, things that get your heart pumping. And if you can't even have an individual form the basics of that, or even have the mindset of understanding, the big picture about some of the training they're getting and take it completely seriously and take it to heart, then it's very hard to demand or expect, you know, individuals to match up, I guess.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it is a lot of lowest common denominators playing into the factor. I see that
Oh,
I see that at my job a lot, where there's a lot of potential security issues, but because
right.
they're not immediate, they're not super pressing factors, they get
Right.
they get brushed off.
You know, because it's not, you don't have to fix it if it ain't broken. But when it does break, that's when shit hits the fan in our fields of work.
Mm.
And by no means am I trying to sound, you know, make it sound like what I do for a day job is some high speed, low drag shit, but my life is on the line. And it is interesting to, it's kind of I would say, it's almost hypocritical for me to expect individuals to come in with a mindset or come in with a certain skill set to work alongside with. And then when it comes down to the job, protecting money and transporting cash and foreign currency and such, there's no reward if you defend the money anymore. Like, you know, back in the day, there used to be this thing where if people stole money, you got it back. You got a reward of that because you helped guard the money, or you would get a bonus or some vacation time or something. And that's all gone now. So there's no incentive to want to protect the money. It's more or less just protecting yourself.
Which, arguably, I would almost say that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but at the same time, it does bring in some individuals with kind of a lackluster mentality of when they need to take something seriously, they don't. And then it causes me to be put into a situation where that could cause the event where a robbery could take place. And even though most guys have the mentality of, oh, if I get robbed, I drop the money and walk away. Well, you don't know what that person wants. You don't know what the extent they'll go to. Because you may drop a bag of like $15,000, but they know you have a key on you that opens up to the back of the truck and there's millions of cash in the back.
Yeah.
So it's basically, you know, a mindset of understanding that you need to be ready at all times. You need to be proficient with your firearm at all times. Your firearm needs to be kept up to standard at all times. And so does your body and mentality.
Yeah, you need to take the responsibilities serious. You can't be slacking off.
Like I had to get on a new guy not too long ago. We were at a gas station at Thornton's. And sometimes when we go to those stops, you'll pop open a safe that they have there, and they'll have about $40,000 to $50,000 in a small safe just at a Thornton's alone. You know, because people go in there and they buy lottery tickets and cigarettes and stuff like that all the time. That's where a lot of your junkies and a lot of your street wretches and stuff like that will go in and just get their fix from. So there's a lot of cash in there. And I'll never forget it. Some random fucking dude in the restaurant, or not the restaurant, but in the gas station was talking to my guy. And while I was taking care of some paperwork with the store supervisor, he needed to go grab something to drink. So this dude looked at one of these customers that I guess he deemed trustworthy enough and said, "Hey, watch the bag real quick," and just put the bag on the floor in front of this guy.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah, that's no bueno.
No, like the lackluster mentality of that. Like when I saw him do that, I walked over to the dude, and the dude saw me and put his hands up immediately. I grabbed the bag from him, like from his reach, and pretty much the dude looked at me and saw me holding the bag, and I looked at him. I was like, we're gonna have a fucking talk when we get outside, because I can't just scream and yell at him in front of everybody. You know, that's a bad look.
Well, yeah, and we're not in the military anymore.
No, but thankfully the guy didn't last that long at the job, because it wasn't just because of that. that reason. There was a couple other things I won't share or talk about, but basically he had a string of bad choices, and thankfully he didn't even survive last a week.
Well, that's the problem with our industry is honestly, the industry itself is so I want to say strained for people that they're willing to lower standards to allow people that should not be there in the role they're in yet into it.
Right.
Like obviously there needs to be gateway jobs and entry levels, but
Right, but even those entry levels should at least either confirm or instill some sort of mentality where it's like, listen, like for example, with Triple Canopy, you and I both came in the same job in the same program, and we both went and did our training down south. And for me, I don't know if the instructor said this for you, but they said the number one rule about being in this job line is don't be a dick.
mm-hmm.
So I carry that with me, and I've carried that with me ever since. And that's been like a surefire way of making sure that, people still want to work with me. But the example is basically saying that an entry level contract like that we had, they still had to, instill some sort of ground rules like, hey, this is the way shit works. This is how it's always going to work wherever you go. So keep that with you. But not a lot of people will look into shit like that. They'll just kind of laugh it off and then just carry on.
Yeah.
Because even with Triple Canopy, where we were at, you and I both can already name off at least five guys that should not have fucking been there.
Yeah. Yeah. But not only that, like for you with dealing with money or anything, at no point should that be a first job for someone in security. It's far too much responsibility.
You would be surprised with the amount of kids. When I say kids, I'm talking young men and women who are probably in their later teens, early 20s. And they come to me, and even though I guess I don't feel that old or that experienced, because I still feel like I just got out of high school yesterday, like I still feel like a kid. But I guess because of my experience, they feel obligated or they feel like they can approach me about advice. And the first thing they ask is, how can I have a career in security? And you and I both know there's no such thing. Security is not a career field. It is not, there's no benefit or long-term retirement for it.
Not unless you get very specialized.
Yeah, very, very like executive protection specialized, like with a defense attorney security wise, you work for like an agency for the State Department or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I came close to doing, but I turned it down because I've got other obligations at home that keep me happy. So as much as I enjoy the money, I enjoy being home and unfortunately getting fat.
Oh boy.
It's hard, man. I like food. But anyways, that goes in line with the gunfighter mentality, stay fit or die. So you gotta keep up that physicality. But my point being is that these security jobs, law enforcement, any type of paramilitary environment, the term gunfighter, I guess, it can be summed up pretty loosely now.
Oh, absolutely. Like, as tragic as the event in Texas was, it's unfortunate to say I'm willing to bet money that some of those officers are going to retire and go work private security for some executive or something.
I'll take that bet. Yeah, I'll definitely put money down on that bet that, we'll probably see, like I'll probably meet those guys down the line, and there'll be some guys say, yeah, I was there in Texas, or I was there outside of Sandy Hook or whatever. Like I'll meet somebody who basically was on the force and they retired because of that tragic event or some shit like that, and they use it as like a crutch or like a redirection.
Yeah. Like, and those are definitely not the people you want on contract.
No, because for the most part, it reminds me. Okay, I won't say who, but I'll give him a nickname, and you'll understand. It's like a nickname, but it's like a series of nicknames. But you'll remember who I'm talking about. Professor Ranger Paleontologist,
Yep.
20-year combat vet, but 10 years old. So
My Irish
it kind
girlfriend.
of, oh God, I forgot about that. My British girlfriend, who I don't talk to for months and months, but I send money to, and then she decided to break up with me because turns out she's been married for 2 months.
Oh wait, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, apparently she had already been like married and moved on or some shit, but she was like still stringing him along because he was sending her money for no child support or nothing. He was just sending her money because he loved her, and she broke up with him. He was like, she cheated on me
Yeah.
with this guy for 2 months. Turned out she married him too. I was like, well, how long have they been married? And he was like, 2 months. I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's
so
that's why you don't date people you don't meet.
that's why, yeah, you don't date people you don't meet. I like that. That's like that saying of like, it's like that saying that my girlfriend told me one time. Was it what? When you kill someone, they die. Like it was some stupid. Yeah, people die when they're killed. Yeah, that kind of shit.
I don't know.
Anyways,
Tell that to Elvis.
people die when they're killed. All right. So, anyways, but the like you were saying, the point being is that you don't want guys like that on contract because when you go into contracting, I'm gonna tie this up. Most guys that are on contract are your mid career guys. Like, there's a guy that I worked with in my previous training cycle, and he put it to me. He said it in a way that I wish I could say it exactly. I might plagiarize it a little bit, but he basically, said that most guys going into contracting, you need to have a chill, no bullshit mentality because a lot of guys you're working with are these guys who've been in for 10 plus years in the military. Now they're out and they're just doing this job to pick up money while staying in the somewhat security mentality. And there's no stress, no nothing. And basically that means like if you have baggage and you have shit going on back home, you can't bring it to contracting and think that this is the military where they'll immediately pick you up and take care of you and be their brotherly love type shit, because this is a area where we don't have to get along to work together. This is you can show up, but at any point they can fire you and send you home.
Exactly.
So that being said, with Professor Paleontologist, 20-year combat vet, 8-year Army Ranger instructor, having that mentality where somebody's so wound up tightly, making up stories, seeking attention, pretty much pretending to be a warmonger, and then as soon as something starts to pop off, freaks out. And then on top of that, when something goes wrong back home, he talks about blowing his brains out.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with that, and you can't deal with that.
Yeah, and overseas is not the place for it.
No, overseas is not the place. Overseas in a contracting civilian mindset is not the place for it, because every single guy that you work with out there, including me, will look at you and say, go home, deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, don't stay here. Don't get anywhere near me. Just go home and deal with it, because nobody goes to Afghanistan or Iraq and looks for drama. Not saying that most guys won't listen to you and you can open up and talk about it. Most guys will understand, but don't think that it's a place where you can bury your sorrows and your troubles and find a miracle.
Exactly.
Now, me, I will definitely say I was very fortunate to have met Yorick from our previous cast, as well as another individual whose name I won't bring up, but just a solid guy we worked with. He was in our very first D&D session with us, but only for that one, because he didn't like a certain individual.
Yeah.
them two really mentored me because I was fresh out of the Marines and was having a very, very rough time adjusting and having a very emotional time at home. And they kind of helped mentor me and take care of me in that aspect. But that also has to do with the fact that I was understanding that I can't act psychotic. I can't act like, like a high schooler. You can't go high school mode and just be emotionally compromised.
Yeah. Yeah, because contracting, as much as it is kind of a military setting, it is that big boy rule of, hey, I can leave whenever I want. I don't have to deal with your shit or any of this.
Yeah, like at any point you can say, I'm tired, I want to go home, and they will send you home. And it's not like there's a bad mark, it's just like any other job. You quit your job, you put in your 2 weeks notice, let them know, and then you come home and you move on to the next project.
Mhm.
But contracting, the only thing about it is that it's such a small community that your name and reputation will spread.
Exactly.
People will hear about you, and it's a really, really small community. Like, I didn't think it was that small until I got with my current company that I'm with now and my previous deployment, and I had a few buddies in my AO, and I was like, holy shit, like this is a small world we really live in.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking, like I had a few buddies that I never thought I was going to see again from the Marines, and I was like, holy shit, you're out here too? Like, damn.
Yeah, like the stateside security world is a lot bigger than that community. And even that community's small.
But hey, on a brighter note, I would definitely say that just going back to it again with the security mentality and the job and the training that I've done, I'm very much even more humbled with my most recent training that I did.
That's good.
Yeah, I got to work with some solid guys. I got to learn a whole lot. And I didn't get top spot in the class, which kind of broke my heart. And because it was one of these classes where it's like, hey, it pays to be a winner, and some guys got to take home some cool gear if they won. And I was 2 points away from being third place and getting getting some gear myself.
Oh, disappointed. I'm disappointed.
It was going to be a set of triggers for a bolt gun.
Um,
Yeah, it was nice.
it would have been better if it was for an AR, but
Second place prize was a set of binos, like binoculars with a rangefinder, display and all. It was really fucking nice shit, bro. Like, dude, I'm talking nice shit. And then first place was a Kestrel wind device.
damn.
I'm talking like one of those $3,500 like sniper.
Oh, I know exactly which ones you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it was one of those, man. And oh, dude, I was so angry when they read out the scores and I learned how far down the line I was. I was fourth place. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I want to redo right now.
Unfortunate. But yeah, that is one thing is, especially for law enforcement, they don't get the training they need. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Is everyone thinks, oh, they're law enforcement, they're special and everything. The answer's really not. They're just civilians.
It's sad. It really is sad when you think about it. They're just civilians with a license to kill.
In a way, yeah. Like the intent is a license to protect, but it doesn't always go that way.
Well, most of the guys that I work with are your actual retired police officers, and even they say that the new generation of cops that we have nowadays have an attitude about them. They show no respect to anybody. Like they'll pull over everybody, treat everybody like the same scummy way. Like, one dude will literally just walk up to him, say hi, and they'll be like, "What do you want?" And he'll say, "Well, hell, I retired 20 years ago." One dude would be like, or dude would be like, "Yeah, so." Like, they like most cops nowadays, they just don't care. They're not peacekeepers.
Yeah.
They it's hard for me to really get into this because we have a number of guys we've worked with who are now police officers, and I know they're not like that.
Oh, absolutely. But they're the minority, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, the minority never gets the spotlight, and the minority is always shunned, even in their own departments.
Yeah.
Because it's from what I've been told, it's also kind of like a clique mentality, like to be a police officer.
Oh yeah. When I was out in California, I met up with one of my old buddies from the Marines who is now a sheriff out there. And he finally got out of jail duty. And
I was about to say, well, damn, he did time and now he's a cop. Like,
no,
oh, shit.
no. He finally got his he finally got his first 3 years in the jails out of the way. And now he's on patrol. And he's like, I fucking hate it because all they're doing is haze festing for no reason, and I'm just like, really? Like, what the fuck? There's in law enforcement, there's no reason to haze anyone. Like, military, it's one thing. In law enforcement, it does not do you any good whatsoever.
No, because you're basically trying to amp these guys up. Like, you haze them and you amp them up into this angry mindset, or into this mindset where they're just ready to go out and just fuck somebody's shit up. But next thing you know, you get a phone call that, hey, guess what? Some lady's baby just had a fucking heart attack and is dying. You need to go out there and save it. But you're all amped up, ready to kill shit. So you get out there, and instead of you helping the family, you're all pissed off, and you're in not the right mindset. It's not easy to be a police officer, but I fully agree with you that there should not be any hazing whatsoever. There should be more like actual training. And when I say actual training, I'm not talking like bringing Steven Seagal in to like teach martial arts, but to like bring in Navy SEALs and Green Berets and such, like guys who have been downrange, been in these terrible places, and have had to make these last minute decisions that save their life, come in and give the police officers at least 2 to 3 more months of training, like more stress training and more like drills.
Exactly. Like he's been telling me, it's like they'll just haze them for 16 hours a day, and he won't learn anything. He won't learn like the paperwork. He won't learn proper pullover procedures. It's just like, well, the fuck am I doing here then if I'm not learning the job?
It also makes you wonder why our tax dollars are actually going to them now. Because if that's the case, where police officers aren't even being trained anymore, then what's the point of even funding them?
Yeah.
Because in a sense, why am I paying for somebody to train their own guys to pretty much just fuck me over when I call for them?
Yeah. Like, if you're going to haze them at any point, haze them during their initial training when they're in the academy or whatever, so that they learn that stress factor.
So they can understand a certain level of stress and annoyance.
Yeah, don't be doing it on the job when they need to be awake and you're working them 16 hours and then calling them 4 hours later to come back in. Or whatnot.
Yeah, and then they got to work another 12-hour shift just to get a day off to come back in and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like in that 16-hour shift, they might be experiencing some of the worst shit you can imagine, because on top of all that, they got to handle their own life, and they're not getting paid that much. Like, hell, nowadays in Louisville, here in Kentucky, they just now been advertising raises and benefits for police officers after the whole Breonna Taylor case here, where almost 200 plus cops quit in a 2-month span.
Yeah.
And all these new cops that are walking the streets, They just have that whole mentality of just fuck everybody. I'm holier than thou. I'm right. You're wrong. Like, no matter what you try to do, half of them look like they're just ready to pick a fight. Like, I was driving one of my trucks down to Churchill Downs to service money because, they got a shit ton of cash coming in and out of that place. And we had to make a drop off. And these cops had the place road blocked off, and we're the cash guys. Like, we're not trying to start nothing. We're not trying to do anything, but they got this road blocked off with the National Guard or the Nasty Guard.
I know.
Hey, listen, bro. I joined the Marine Corps to talk shit professionally for my entire life. So did you. So just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, but I went from a crayon eater to a glue licker. So.
So they blocked off the road, and when I asked them if we could get through, they pretty much acted like they were, the fighting the holy war when they met me, and was basically like, no, you can't come through unless I tell you, and you need to wait right here. We'll come back and we'll let you know when you can leave. That kind of bullshit. And my partner at the time, he was a retired police vet. Like, I'm talking like old school, like cop, like good dude. Like, he still uses the term, I walked the beat, I did this, did that. Basically just told the dude to go fuck himself when he drove off. But it's just the mindset that cops nowadays, they're not here to help us.
Yeah. Like, I'm fortunate. The ones I interact with have always been pretty cool. But I think some of that is also just having that ability to kind of get that innate sense of being like, you know what? I know I can trust you, type thing. But even the ones I talk to and everything, they've all agreed. It's like, hey, we don't get training for shit. Like,
no.
Like, it's one of the reasons why I do need to try and find a way of getting that training facility going, because half the cops I've talked to are like, yeah, dude, we would pay out of our own money for the training you're suggesting.
Like, honestly, bro, like, especially now with more of my qualifications and courses I'm going through and the next deployment I'm going to get on my belt, like, dude, I am all about sitting down, running, a couple ranges with you and actually laying out some instruction.
Yeah. And it's not only that, but it's also getting them that force on force training.
Yes, that's desperately needed.
Because like that post I sent you of how even the best, like the top end SWAT, there's a lot of guys in there that never have been in a force on force situation, and then they crumble because of that when they finally do get to that point.
Which blows my mind, because you would think SWAT team, these are like your elite cops that transfer in from different cities and different states, but these guys have been there and done that. Like, that's the mindset that you would put with these guys.
You would think, but again, going to your point, a lot of those ones that have that experience and everything, they're all retiring, they're all leaving, and we're getting that new generation that haven't done anything.
And for guys like me and you who have that experience, like who have the embers of that experience that can build upon and still keep shit relevant,
we don't want to go into it.
Yeah, we don't want to go into it, because what's the first thing every cop will tell you? Oh, you got to do a 2 to 3 year probation period, and then we both know that's going to be pushed out to 15 years because you got to wait till somebody retires.
Yeah.
And these new guys who are going into the SWAT teams who have little to no experience of this shit, they're not going to lose those spots because, they're, once they're at the top, who wants to come down?
Yeah. Well, that, and it's going to be like, we're going to try and bring in and be like, hey, I get why you guys do this procedure and everything, but why don't we try this because of this reason? Right. And they're just like, no, this is the way that we've always done it. This is the way we do it.
Right. The change, like me and you would bring in and notice, like, hey, listen, guys, this is not how this is not a satisfactory way of doing something. Let's try this. And they'll say, nope, this is the way we've always done it. And it's not really because they're afraid of change, but it's because the more change you bring, the better it looks for you, and the worse it looks for them because they're not actively trying to change anything.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's also the fact that they view it as, oh, that would require too much more budget. That would require they'll try and justify it for whatever reason, being like, oh well, we don't really see that issue. It's like, well, at some point, because if I can think of it, a criminal can think of it.
Absolutely.
You're going to run into it eventually.
Like that's probably one of the biggest blessings / curses about being in the career fields that I've chosen, is that when you get into a job, the first mindset is, how would I break this bitch?
Exactly.
Like if I was going to attack this place, how would I do it?
Now, and like using Texas, it's like I hate to see it because there's so many failures to study in that whole thing, but
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much that just led up to it that you just kind of ask, like, why wasn't this stopped? But at the same time, I know what you're getting at. You don't want tragedy, but this tragedy teaches.
Yeah.
You learn from it.
And it's unfortunate too, because it's like I hope to God it's not true, but it does sound like it is, that some of the reasoning for them not going in was because, oh, we might get shot. That is part of your job. Unfortunately, that's what you
That is literally your job. Like they didn't want to go in because they didn't want to get shot. Meanwhile, small children are putting themselves between their classmates and these gunmen. These kids are taking the bullets rather than you wanting to get shot in your vest.
Yeah. But then they're like, oh, well, he barricaded himself in the room and it might not be an active shooter situation. No, he has a gun. It's still an active shooter. Until he does not have a gun, he's an active shooter.
And even after he doesn't have that gun, check the rest of the building for secondaries. Until the entire building is clear, it is an active shooter situation. It does not fucking matter.
Yeah. But two, like, I think, what was it? Like, it was a single story building or anything. So he was in a room that was along the outer wall.
There's windows that you can see inside.
Exactly. Why did no one post up and get eyes on? The door breach failure. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't know. Maybe the dude put a chair behind it or whatever, but I would like to find out, like, what they attempted to do for that door breach. Because obviously, if there's kids inside, you don't entirely want to do an explosive breach. But there is alternatives to the battering ram that they still could have used.
Oh, like a fucking CS gas canister.
Well, not only that, they could have shotgunned the door frame.
Oh yeah, that too.
Like, it just, everything that I know about the situation tells me that the people on scene panicked and they went into mental lock.
You know, it's pretty much that stage where we constantly train to not go into, that stage of red.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if we're going to do the Cooper's color code.
Or isn't it black?
No. So black is catatonic, where you just panic and you're irrational. That's basically where these people, we train to stay in the red.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you want to, white and yellow is like your normal day-to-day type shit. Orange is like, you know, shit's hitting the fan, but we train to be in that red zone where the most amount of pressure is being applied, but we're still able to function and get out of that and bring us back into orange. Like we walk that fine line, but yeah, like you were saying, when you read into it and you hear about the fucking the aftermath or the after action reports, what these cops did, it really fucking disappoints you.
Yeah.
It really disappoints you to the point where it's like, when you were needed most, you failed. You know, what good are you?
And I don't know if they have a procedure, they have policies for all that, but the first thing I thought of reading into it and everything, I'm like, man, the training idea I had for the school shooter scenario and everything would have been perfect in this scenario. Where you systematically, obviously, basic military tactics, you set up a security perimeter.
Right.
You put in your assault force, systematically go down the hallways, door to door, securing them, making sure, hey, okay, is anyone in this room? Okay, are we close enough and have we secured a path that they can get out? Okay, get them out. Mark that area with a chem light so that any follow-on force understands, hey, I see a green chem light. This area's been cleared. Oh, there's a door with a red chem light. That means there's people stuck in there. Okay, I need to make sure that I can get them out or whatever. And just process the whole building until you get to where that guy is. You that way you're not giving him the freedom of potentially moving to a different area. He is stuck in that room for sure.
You also have to understand that most people don't even have that level of training where it's like, okay, here's the thing. There is shit going down. Like, for me, my initial training for active shooters started in 2013 with the Navy Yard shooting in DC, where that dude killed 7 people.
Yeah.
And so going through, I'm trying to figure out how to word this, but I'm going to let you keep going. I don't want to interrupt you because you were on a solid path here.
For the most part, I was pretty much done. The only other thing is buddy on Facebook and posted a video about how this one school upgraded their school with like bullet resistant doors, camera systems that are linked to the sheriff so they can track the person through the building. Which I'm like, hey, that's kind of along the ideas I had, but mine was more acoustic tracking and using microphones to track location because it's like a $400,000 system that they installed into that school. Yet I could spend maybe $2,000. Okay, depending on like if we have to count rifle and whatever, I have to spend obviously more, but I could easily spend under $10,000 and I could counteract that entire system.
Right.
Like the cost of benefit ratio isn't that great because with the cameras, they're easily identifiable. If the shooter actually has any 2 working brain cells, as he's walking around the building, he's just going to shoot the cameras out.
Yeah, exactly. But microphone,
you can tuck away, you can hide. It's a little better.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Or maybe work them in conjunction. But
so that being said, and pushing aside for the moment, would you like to talk a little bit about world occurrences now?
Huh?
Because we can talk about all day about what should have been done, what could have been done, what me and you, like if me and you were teamed up, kitted up outside of an elementary school and then bang, started hearing gunfire, what me and you would have done.
Or what we imagine we would do. Like,
no, what I would do. I'm a lean, mean, fighting, kindergarten saving machine, you know.
Yeah, no. If it came to kids, there's no hesitation on that.
No, fuck no. I hate the fact that like all these locations where all this shit's going on is places that it's shit where I sit here and think to myself, there's no way I would hesitate. Like every day, if I'm ever making a cash delivery in like a shopping mall, I always think that like, okay, if there's a gunfight right now in this mall, where is my exit? Where is my entry points? Where can I, start getting people out? Like my choke points. Like I immediately start analyzing everything about the mall, just going through, or even a regular store where I'm at. Like if something cooks off, what is my immediate action, my immediate reaction?
Yeah. And that is something a lot of people don't do.
So let's go ahead and move aside from the tragedy of Texas, moving aside from cowboy fantasies and saving children. We can probably go ahead and talk about some of the world occurrences, unless there's something else you want to talk about that's going on in America, because I know you said there are some things we could talk about that's going on. But I figured before we start going down a rabbit hole, because, you know, as veterans, like we do, as soon as we start talking about one thing, it leads us down 20 different paths.
Yeah. No, I think world events would be a great swap.
Okay. So right now, as far as I know, when it comes to the China and Taiwan situation, they have not yet like begun their full invasion. Like they have not yet begun troops and amphibious deployments and such. But when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, all I know is that Russia is holding back their death counts. Like they're not releasing. Like Russia's not releasing the numbers of deaths, whereas Ukraine has been releasing estimates.
Yeah. Well, there's a channel on YouTube. I don't remember it. Let's see if I can pull it up. I don't know if I sent you one of the videos or not, but it was this dude who shares translations of intercepted phone calls and everything.
Okay.
And one of them was a discussion of this girl who had to pay to go dig through the mass grave to find her brother.
This is in Ukraine.
Yeah, but it was it was a Russian mass grave.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and say something real quick. For anyone who decides to listen to this, if you've ever wondered in history through all these wars, through all these conflicts of like, how do you bring home your dead on such a large scale? The answer is you don't. Unfortunately, in every war that you can pretty much think about where there's been thousands of casualties in a battlefield, there's not really time or manpower to dig individual graves unless they decide to put forth that effort to honor the enemy or honor their own soldiers. In this case, the first estimates within the first month of Russia's invasion, there was an estimate of about 15,000 dead or missing or captured Russian soldiers. And a death toll of that size, Ukraine's soldiers and civilians can't spare the time or manpower or funding to dig individual graves or send back the bodies, especially if most of those bodies have been burned, blown up, vaporized, and mangled by war. A mass grave is basically a giant pit where you put all the bodies and all the limbs in a pit. And I don't know if they still cover them with anything, like if they cover them with some sort of like lime or some sort of powder or anything like that, but then they just bury it.
Well, it's one of those things, like, I'm sure some of the numbers are overly exaggerated.
Oh, for sure. Like the Ghost of Kiev and shit. Like, it's all propaganda.
Yeah.
All propaganda.
But everything that we know now is the Ukrainian numbers were a bit closer to accurate than the Russian numbers were.
And this is usually, we can actually say they're more correct because the first thing about war, especially one being televised like this, is that we saw the amount of troops and vehicles and regiments and divisions and army groups that Russia had posted at the border prior to the invasion. And even Russia themselves was very proud to post those numbers saying, 50,000, 85,000 soldiers ready to go. And then when you look at the news and see how far Russia is pushed, and then you see tank columns, convoy columns, helicopters, planes constantly being shot down, you can get a rough estimate of saying, okay, in that helicopter, there was probably about, depending on which one they were using, like 2 to 4 people in it. In a convoy, like the one that was daisy chained, I don't know if you saw that one.
The 40-kilometer one?
Yeah, the 40-kilometer daisy chain that Ukraine set off, which was, in my mind, masterful, but yet tragic because it was still a loss of life. And what we've seen for most of Russia's vanguard is kids, young kids.
Yeah.
But you can get a rough estimate saying, okay, this army group went here, this army group went here. So tallies are pretty fucking high. Now, don't get me wrong, though, Ukraine's is high as well, but just not as high as Russia.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Uh, yeah, I don't think Russia's not going to end up winning this in the end. When I made my initial assessment, I definitely underestimated the amount of Western support.
Yeah, I'll add to that in a second, but I'll say, I will say, that if Russia pulls off this victory, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic victory, for sure. That basically, even if Russia decides to go anywhere else or tries to do anything else, it won't be able to recover from it because not only the publicity and the sanctions that Russia is suffering right now from pretty much everybody, but also due to the fact that if any other country decides to say, screw it, we're going to help Ukraine and fight back, Russia won't be able to defend what they've gained.
Yeah, not unless they go nuclear.
And then adding on to the point of underestimating Western support, when you look back in history and you always read up on like Napoleon or even Rome, and you hear about how, the island, Britain, England was always, funding all these other nations. World War I and II was always funding these other nations. America was funding Britain and such. You see the number, but it doesn't. You can't imagine it unless you see it. And then you hear about America sending oil and weapons and ammunition. And then there's mercenaries and such that come in, American mercenaries, Taliban mercenaries, everybody coming in to fight. You actually get to see the immediate effect that has against I would say a standard military. It kind of actually puts shit into perspective, especially for me.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's all numbers. We're sitting back home and we're relaxing, and it's all numbers. Like they says, oh, they send $50 billion to help. You're like, okay, $50 billion. Whatever they spend, $80 billion on a satellite that we just lost. Whatever. But it doesn't actually put it in perspective until you see it. When you do see it, you're like, holy shit! Like, where did all those rockets, all these missiles and shit come from the Ukrainians? And it's like, oh, it came from us.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, didn't Ukraine just sink Moscow, Russia's biggest battleship? Didn't they just sink that?
It was a cruiser.
It was a cruiser. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like a battleship. I know it was like it was their big capital ship. I know that.
Yeah, it was the Black Sea Fleet's flagship.
And they sank it. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah. What's crazy though is that's not even the only thing going on in the world either. Like I'm looking at some of my intel channels. There's riots going on in Pakistan right now.
Seriously, what for?
Supporters of Imran Khan, the former president, premier, prime minister, whatever, their head of.
Was he for or against democracy and such?
I'll be honest, I don't entirely know.
Gotcha. But you just know that, hey, Pakistan is rioting due to elections.
Yeah.
Okay.
The government is trying to call in the army. Pakistan government summons Pakistan army for the security of government's buildings in the red zone in Islamabad.
No shit.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it's actually really fucking refreshing to hear the rest of the world has the same problems as us.
Oh yeah.
It's nice, man, because for the most part, it makes it really seem like we're the only ones, and the rest of the world's like sane, and you're like, oh no, the world's fucked up too.
Yeah, no. If I remember correctly, Brazil had a few things going on last week or maybe the week before. And this is why I want to do the like weekly intel dumps videos.
Yeah.
Because I get like I think just yesterday alone I had like 70 some chats in the channel. So it's very easy to lose track of everything.
I mean, hell, man. I mean, the world changes. I mean, in a literal sense, every single week, world changes, and it's so hard to say, okay, hey, things are this way.
Oh yeah, like
That this government thinks this, or these people are doing this, and the next week it's like, oh, they're not doing it anymore. Now they're doing this.
and not breaking any news story or anything, but not Pakistan, geez. Palestine and Israel are damn near in a full-blown war right now.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Shit.
Turkey's announced that they're going to start another military campaign into Syria.
Oh, that's just. I'm gonna go ahead and say they're gonna fail.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. Syria doesn't have much support now. Like, as much as what's going on in the world, I can see them losing some ground here.
So, there's so much to go through. Oh, apparently, the internet in Pakistan's being disrupted due to the riots.
Hooray for lizard people.
Oh yeah, and North Korea fired several ballistic missiles the other day. Go figure.
They fire them at anybody, or do they just fire them off?
I don't know. As far as I can tell, it was just they fired them off into the sea.
I was gonna say, man, me and you called that shit when Trump initially went to North Korea, and then they backed down. Me and you literally was like, no, he's gonna wait. He's basically just waiting till Trump and the world forgets about him, and then he's gonna start doing his shit again.
Yeah.
North Korea has not changed whatsoever fucking ever.
Oh, of course not.
Like, that dictatorship is still there. People are still suffering and starving and being conscripted into their army. Like, they may have the world's largest manpower army. They don't have training. They don't have the will to fight. I guarantee you, the second that they see I'm not even going to say American flag at this point, because America, especially with our cabinet and with our administration, does not care for North Korea at this point. It's going to be some other nation in that general area. Once they have troops on the ground and flying other flags, we're going to see pretty much like we saw with Saddam's Iraqi Guard, just a mass exodus of soldiers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In Sudan, there's demonstrations calling for civilian rule and denouncing the military control.
Sudan?
Yeah.
I'm actually not too familiar about Sudan. When it comes to Africa, I'm more or less just kind of like a blank slate here, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Africa is, I hate to say it, is a pretty big shit show right now too. I think it's the Central African Republic threatened to invade its neighbor, or its neighbor threatened to invade it. Something along those lines. Like, there was a nation that threatened to invade its neighbor if they didn't take care of some group on its border.
Okay, I mean, hell, that could be summed up to about 3 countries I can think of right now.
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. In the words of Gas, good news first. The world's in great shape.
I'm trying to sort through all of this.
Definitely will say though, Hess, it's just good to hear from you, man. I know I've been kind of like, quiet, and like I said, man, life's just been crazy. Still happy though, me and the girl, still doing great, still doing amazing. Love her to death. Definitely gonna be wifing her up next couple years.
That's good.
I mean, you're invited to the wedding, you and your wife.
Oh, I better be.
Yeah, of course you're gonna be invited. I mean, I couldn't make yours obviously because of just fucking finances popping up last minute. Like, I'm sitting there balancing out my shit. I'm like, all right, let's look at a flight to California. And it was like 1,700, and I was like,
Oh, Jesus.
okay, yeah, it was 1,700, and I was like, dude, hey man, I know you're my bro, and I know I promised to be there at your wedding. But dude, if I go to your wedding right now, I'm gonna be filing bankruptcy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's a funny thing from actually today.
Okay, what's up?
So the Taliban has been making okay, here it is. I'll just read the post. The Caucasus Emirate and the Taliban call for the fratricidal war in the Caucasus. On May.
Oh, they're going after white people.
Yeah, well, specifically Russians.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's
Well, hang on. Let's call it what it is. The CIA trained Taliban.
yeah. Well, I don't know, but I think most of those are dead.
No, I mean, dude, I'm just saying the transition in Bagram was pretty fucking rapid. And then when you look at how they operate and how they're riding around, it's like those are the same motherfuckers we just trained.
Well, okay, yeah. I don't think the CIA trained them. I think the DOD did.
I just like bringing up the CIA. Love you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's pretty sad.
Please hire me. I'd like to work for you guys.
It's pretty sad when you're working with the ANP and you know they're corrupt as fuck, but you can't do shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Same thing with the fucking KKA and the ANA. Like you see them training day in and day out, carrying those fucking tires up the mountains and shit. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, these motherfuckers are just praying for the day that the Taliban come back so they can stop doing that shit. Because like Taliban don't make them do that shit.
Yeah. Well, the KKA were good though. They legit were on our side, or at least the majority were.
Now they aren't anymore. They're gone.
No, they're actually fighting. What's their name? They're the NRF now.
They're called the NRF.
Yeah, National Resistance Front.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'll retract my statement then.
Yeah.
They are still doing some shit.
Yeah, the KKA actually makes up the majority of that group. But yeah, back to reading this post. And do you know what else the Taliban are doing? They're urging Russian Muslim pilots in the Russian Air Force to defect from the military service and fly to Afghanistan, going under the banners of the Afghanistan.
Return to the fatherland.
Yeah. Which is hilarious because like even this post mentioned it's like, and this is right after they opened the official embassy in Moscow.
Damn. Like these motherfuckers are bold as shit.
Yeah.
They're bold. I'm just saying, like, you open up the embassy, and the next thing you know, it's like, all right, now come fight them with us. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Can't trust them for a fucking second, man. That actually just makes me laugh. I'm like, holy shit, man, the balls on these.
Oh yeah, and Iran just captured 2 Greek-flagged oil tankers.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Doing their typical thing of, you are violating Iranian waterways. No, we're not. We're in international waters by a few hundred miles.
You see, and this brings up the fact of like we need maritime contracts. I'm just saying it wouldn't be that hard to put me and you through like a 3-week training course on how to work and be on a ship, and then just leave the rest of the shooting and pew pews to us.
Well, everything I know about maritime contracting is if you're a security on the ship, that is solely your job. You do not get involved in anything else.
So then, what's the fucking the legal qualifications that mean you're missing here? Because I mean, if we don't really do anything except for just protect the ship, then what the fuck am I missing out on here?
I believe you.
What am I not-
I believe all it is you just need the license that basically says yes, you know what maritime laws are and you will abide by them.
Oh, maritime laws. Okay.
Yeah, basically, you won't fire unless it's in self-defense. Blah 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 blah. Standard.
Because I mean,
Standard shit.
international waters is kind of a big deal.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things of, like, when you enter, like, you can't have any arms on the ship when you enter a territorial water. And even more so when you enter a port.
Okay, so basically, if I enter a port, all my weapons gotta be back in the armory.
They can't even be on the ship, from what I understand.
So then, how am I supposed to defend the ship?
Pretty much, your entire job is only when the ship is in international waters. So, from what I know, like, depending on the company or whatever, like, you'd wait until the ship undocks, enters international waters, and then you would board with your equipment. And then before they get to their next port, before they enter that country's waters, you would you'd disembark.
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Which I could entirely be wrong, but that's what I understood when I looked into it several years ago.
Oh well, like I was saying, I'm not really trying to look to do too much more contracting. I mean, honestly, depending on how things go with the economy, because the economy is just getting worse and worse, I don't plan on doing many more deployments in the future after this next one.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to buy a bike just to save on fuel.
Yeah, like as much as I want to give me a truck and actually like upgrade a little bit, I have to kind of stick with my little fuel economy Equinox that I have.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually thankful to see more and more people driving around, because it's like, yeah, like it doesn't cost a lot to fill up the tank, and I get a shit ton of miles out of the damn thing.
Yeah. But yeah, right now that loan that I took out while on contract is kind of kicking my ass.
It was a good idea at the time. We just didn't know the world was going to have a pandemic when we got back.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, honestly, dude, back in Afghanistan, like where we were, we had it fucking made.
Yeah.
Like, that was some of the easiest money I've ever made in my life. And honestly, back then, especially thinking of our mindset, there really was doing no wrong with your money.
No.
Because we were there, we were guaranteed money every single day we woke up, and we were making damn near close to 3,000 a fucking paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's fresh out of the fucking Marine Corps into an early entry level fucking contract. That's tax too. Like shit, man.
Yeah. Well, and the worst thing is like I've been trying to refinance the loan just to have a lower payment. Not a single bank will take it.
I had to do the same thing with my car recently, and thankfully my bank, I'm with L&N Federal Credit Union, they refinanced a loan, so now I'm saving about another $100 off my car. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, if Triple Canopy hit me up and said there's an armed guard position in Afghanistan, open up, you want it? I'd be like, yes, we're going, bro.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
If they hit me up and said, would you be willing to go back to Camp Scorpion? I'd be like, all right,
Sign me up for a 6-month contract.
What's the bonus rate?
yeah, what's our bonus?
Yeah, exactly. Like, hang on a second, I've got experience in that place.
Tell you what, set me up as a supervisor.
Yeah. Speaking of shit related to that, there is a possibility that this fall we might have an interruption to our schedule of recording
Okay.
because there's a possibility I will be able to spend 18 weeks in Arizona.
18 weeks?
Yep.
Am I allowed to know what?
I will potentially tell you away from the podcast.
Okay. Is it juicy?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of, but no.
Okay. But it's does it pay well, and is your wife okay with it?
She's okay with it. Doesn't exactly pay well.
Well, if you feel okay about it and she's okay about it, then hey,
Yeah.
you know what? Who am I to judge?
Yeah. But
Currently, right now with me, I've got a lot of shit coming up here soon. Basically, I won't be able to do anything in fucking July, and then after that, I'll be on a deployment. I won't be back until like beginning of winter.
oh shit. Well, so there's a chance that my time might coincide with your time anyway. So
Potentially, yeah. Especially the way things are looking right now. I'm really fucking hoping that this deployment, this last little bit I'm doing here, is gonna take care of my finances and set me straight. So that way, when I come home, just about every penny I make goes in my pocket. I can actually start saving up for a house and shit.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now.
I'm also having to push back college. I was gonna start it this fall, but I gotta push it back to spring.
As long as you get to it.
Oh, I'm definitely getting to it, especially after this last training event that I went to and the guys I got to work with. Yeah, I want to get my college done ASAP. Because literally a couple of the guys were like, dude, I'll be waiting for you. See you in a couple of years. I was like, fuck yeah, man. I'm on my way.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, you would have loved the fucking training. Man.
Oh, shit. If I can afford to, I definitely want to. I want to do what is it? ESRI's executive protection, or is it ESPI?
I know which one you're talking about. It's a $10,000 course.
Yeah.
Or you can use your GI Bill, but you already used it, so you have to save up 10 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Shit, man, if I was made of money, I'd send it to you.
you and me both.
Yeah, you know, if I was made up of money, I would be like, yeah, you know, just go ahead and tell your wife you're going to take a break and go do this, what is it, like a 12-week course?
I thought it was only like 8.
Okay,
I don't know. I legitimately just threw it out there because I knew there was a lot that went into it. And it was like a 2-month, if not 3-month thing.
Yeah, something like that. And I think they even made they did make a shorter version because you do some of it online.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, with this course I just did, I think I actually technically could qualify for a few new jobs because I'm now LERS. LERS qualified now.
Ooh, interesting.
so if I want to do like executive protection, I could be the EDM.
I wanted to.
Well, should we wrap this episode up?
Yeah, why not? We'll wrap it up and then we'll try to schedule again if you want to later on in June before things get hectic for me in July and I'll have to take a break.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
So,
Well,
I think we just got to talk and just kind of vent and discuss a few things about what's going on.
yeah.
But I definitely support the idea of a weekly update of saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is, you know, what you should start to think about and things that you should start to plan for.
Oh yeah. Well, I definitely want to try and see about maybe finding people around me that would be interested in doing like small classes for firearm training or strat tactics and stuff.
Dude, I've got a bunch of guys that I work with now at my job waiting for me and you to start up our company because they're dying to have a job at a company where they like guys who know what the fuck they're doing. Like every fucking day, I've got guys who are like,
Let me know when you start up, man. I'll apply. I'm sitting here like, well, shit. Now I've at least got like a 7-man workforce.
Yeah, and they'll all bring something that we need.
They'll bring their own experiences, but majority of them are wanting training. They want me and you to train them.
Well, it's like Mike Glover, John Lovell. I almost forgot his name. Like they always say, no one's the end all be all of training.
Right.
Everyone will bring something different. Might not be correct for you, but it might be correct for someone else. Best thing to do is go out and learn from as many people as you can.
And I mean,
and that's kind of what gives me kind of like, hey, I might not offer the best thing. Like I can't offer what Mike Glover or John Lovell can offer. But I can offer a different perspective.
Which that's honestly what a lot of people want. They really aren't looking for somebody to be like, this is the only way to do it. They want somebody to actually like sit down with them and legit say, hey, here's something to add on and something to think about that just evolves their skill craft.
Yeah.
So to tie it in makes them a better gunfighter.
Yeah. And definitely like,
yeah, I can tie it in. I can tie in an episode.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, so glad to hear from you again. I'm glad we finally got around to making the next episode because
let's do it Thursday. Well, no, we can't do Thursday. Let's do Saturday. Well, we can't do Saturday. Like, dude, fuck, it's the hardest thing to schedule this shit, man.
Yeah. If only this was an actual like functional business and we actually were able to do it properly.
Yeah, kind of like what we were saying. It's like who knew that if a podcast isn't something that's paying, you would have to depend on a day job.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to get a first shift job. I think that's what screws us a lot is since you work first shift, I work second. That makes scheduling a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it definitely does because I prefer a first shift job
ever since being in Afghanistan, working at Scorpion, and actually like me and you talked about that, how like second shift, even though I love second shift, I just wish second shift was just first shift.
Yeah.
We kept all the guys, we just had better times.
Yeah. Yeah. For all you listening, thanks for listening in. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed our random conversation and random talking points. At some point, I promise in the future, for those listening, we will have an actual agenda to talk about.
Yes.
We will have an agenda with points and questions and potentially in actual answers.
Full on deep research.
Yeah, not just this is what we think. We're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on it. It's a work in progress.
But then again, this is Smokepit Symposium. This is our bullshit podcast.
It really is. I mean, if you think about it, this is all the Smoke Pit ever was just us getting together, smoking and joking, and then just saying, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what's going on. Oh, what do you think? Oh, this is what I think. Well, nobody cares about what you think.
Which
that's cool.
I have received some feedback from people I know who are like, they actually enjoy this podcast because of that fact.
That it's just us shooting the shit.
Yeah, just we're bringing that veteran perspective to things, and we're just we're not trying to push an agenda. We're just like, hey,
not at all. Because there's never truly a right answer. It's just this is what we think. Here's something to think about. Now, this one was kind of like a last minute clap together, but later this month in June, we're gonna get a solid podcast in and legitimately bring up some shit.
Yeah, but I'm definitely glad we were able to get it this week because of Texas, because of Boston. Yeah, like because of those events, I definitely think we needed to talk about that.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about it again later on. Like I definitely want to talk about it more and
discuss more options.
Oh yeah,
more potential thought processes.
Oh yeah, Well, especially like discussing the views of like civilian-owned body armor.
Or people, for example, wanting to start up their own companies to guard schools.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of legal issues behind that, but
Yeah, absolutely. You know, bringing guns around fucking kindergartners.
yeah.
Oh, bud.
I'll let you end this one.
All right.
Or do you want me to wrap it up?
I'll let you.
Alrighty. Well, for those of you who are listening, and those who decide to listen in the near future to these podcasts, to look into at least a different opinion, something to think about, and something to maybe give some sort of insight. We hope to hear from you, get some questions, and to see you potentially in a chat with us later on down the line. We hope that you've enjoyed this. Just as a reminder, I am Rice, or more or less my Discord is Pay Attention 007, one of my favorite quotes. And my co-host being...
Yes. We do have Instagram. You can we're not entirely very active on it, but it is Hessian Tactical on Instagram. Patreon, Hessian Tactical as well. Obviously.
And soon we'll be starting a OnlyFans, Hessian Tactical as well.
You know, that might work.
Foot porn, man. That's the way to go.
Yeah, gun porn. Gotta go.
Gun porn, foot porn, they both work out.
Oh, yeah. It'll be your feet, my guns.
That's fine. $100 to shave a toe. And right there, that's our funding.
Yeah, that could actually go quite a ways.
I'm telling you, man, it's shit to think about. But anyways, for those of you listening, be safe out there, stay alert, and work on your craft. Fine-tune it, become a much more proficient gunfighter, so that when the day comes that some mentally ill yahoo decides to start shooting up an elementary school, be the one to step in and not hesitate.
And seek training. Don't just be happy where you're at. And don't seek from just one person.
Until then, I'm Rice. This is Hessian Tactical Podcast. Until next time.
Peace.